prior to this, it has always been blanket subsidies, and there is a lot of leakages due to that. We have been hearing about complaints with regards to this, the subsidies leaking to those who don't really need it, or who are not in the category of should be taking it. So with targeted subsidies, we will be looking at the categories of people who will be the beneficiary. We will be looking at the collection of the data, and then we will be looking at the mechanism on how we will implement the targeted subsidies. We believe that when we implement it and it is in place, then those who really need it will get it in the form of cash assistance.
Malaysia is bracing for a delayed uptick in inflation later this year as the broader impacts of the war in Iran ripple through to consumer prices. Economy Minister Akmalullah Wahmad Nasir warned that the inflationary pressure is no longer confined to fuel, as rising costs for construction and manufacturing raw materials drive up overall production expenses, while local stockpiles have temporarily delayed the impact. The country now braces for the inevitable ripple effects on everyday consumer prices. Moving on to the impacts, the first major consequence can be seen in how the rising cost of living directly threatens household welfare, particularly affecting low-income families. These vulnerable households typically spend disproportionately large percentage of their monthly income on basic necessities such as transportation, food, and utilities. Therefore, when fuel prices rise, their disposable income drastically decreases, as exemplified by daily commuters travelling from suburban areas to Kuala Lumpur who face soaring monthly petrol expenses that deplete their household savings. Beyond their household level, this situation simultaneously creates a severe fiscal burden for the government due to high fuel subsidies maintained to control retail fuel prices. During period of high global oil prices, government subsidy expenditure increases significantly, which heavily restricts and reduces the country's overall fiscal space. Consequently, critical funding that should ideally be allocated toward public healthcare, education, and national development spending is instead diverted to absorb these fuel costs. In fact, according to official data from the Ministry of Finance, subsidy expenditure has previously exceeded a staggering 50 billion during peak global energy price periods. In addition to straining a national coffer, this price hike triggered widespread inflationary pressure across the entire economy through inflationary spillover effects. As fuel costs escalate, the operation and logistically expenses from almost all businesses, manufacturing sectors, and supply chain automatically increases. On a practical level, consumers experience this firsthand through higher food delivery charges, increased public transport costs, and rising menu prices at local restaurants. Businesses are ultimately forced to transfer these elevated operational expenses onto the end consumers just to maintain their profit margins and survive in the market. This change reaction contributes directly to the overall growth of the consumer price index in Malaysia, effectively reducing the purchasing power of ordinary citizens. In conclusion, these three interconnected dimensions, household welfare, government fiscal burden, and inflationary pressures, clearly demonstrate how deeply fuel pricing impacts the socio-economic stability of the nation.
In facing the challenges of rising living costs, global economic uncertainty, and inflationary pressures, the government has become increasingly proactive in implementing various government policies such as physical assistance, targeted subsidies, income support measures, minimum wages adjustments, and market price interventions to protect public welfare. Therefore, the question is, within the context of Budget 2026 and the implementation of government policies such as targeted subsidies, physical assistance, income support, and minimum wages increases, to what extent can government intervention improve public welfare and domestic purchasing power without creating long-term subsidy dependency, new inflationary pressures, crowding out the private sector, and risk fiscal sustainability towards RMK 13?
Thank you so much for the question. So, actually, for the government is already facing a very bad condition now since it's burdened with too many things surrounding the economic uncertainty. So the fiscal policy need to be strengthened by implement a few new policies. Even though the salaries increase and also the people and the rakyat is facing too many burden since inflation is going up, I think the government should focus on targeted subsidy. Not everybody will receive the subsidy. Not B40, of course, they will receive the subsidy, while the M40 and also the T20 need to be separated from the subsidy. So only the government need to be more concerned about who will get the subsidy, so that the fiscal stability will be more strengthened in the long term. Otherwise, the government will face a very big burden in the long term, because too many funds need to be allocated to all people in the country. So I think it should be more targeted and giving the what we call the bantuan to the low income people and also the B40 people, mainly for the low income. So the T20 need to be avoided from the subsidy, and the B40 also need to be more concerned. It's like what the government have done for the Budi Madani, so they control the subsidies, and also for few foods and also minyak masak, cooking oil, a lot of things have subsidy. So now the government need to think about targeted subsidy. Not everybody will receive the subsidy, and in the long term the government can overcome the budget and sustain the economy. I think that should be the correct decision the government should do in the long term. Otherwise they will face too many burden and cannot control the economic growth and achieve the target for RMK 13 in the near future. Okay, thank you.
May I know, how does the increase in fuel prices affect household spending patterns?
Assalamualaikum. My name is Aswarif. I work at Felkar Berhad. In my view, the increase in fuel prices significantly influences household spending behavior. As transportation and logistic costs rise, the price of goods and services also tend to increase, which reduces consumer disposable income. Consequently, many households adjust their spending priorities by reducing discretionary expenses such as entertainment, dining out, and non-essential purchases. Instead, they focus more on essential needs, including food, utilities, more budget-conscious lifestyle, and practice careful financial planning in order to maintain economic stability within the household. Thank you.
My next question is, what are the public sentiments and social reaction toward rising in fuel prices?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ziyad Firdaus bin Zaid. I am 36 years old and currently living in Putrajaya. I work as a manager in a perfume shop company. So regarding the fuel price increase, I believe it triggers many reactions, strong reactions from the public, because it directly affects the cost of living. We can see many people now is getting worried because of the increasing financial pressure on the household, especially on the middle and low group of income. We can also see there's various discussion on social media and also news platforms regarding this topic, because of the fuel price increase, the transportation and the cost of goods are also increasing as well. People now are also expecting for the government to step in to help in terms of subsidies and also targeted help among the public. And then they are also hoping so that the price of everyday goods can be controlled a bit by the government. So overall, what I can say is the fuel price is a very sensitive issue, and it will affect on all groups of nation. It can be felt by all level of society. That's all from me. Thank you.